Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Three Men in the Football podcast. How are we doing, lads?
Good. Simon Thomas, how are we?
Great, thanks. Well in, Darren. Love that you started the right way.
You can't do that every episode, you know. You can't talk about how we start it every single episode.
No, you can, because it makes me feel comfortable he's done it right. So now I know it's going to be all right. Carrying on.
How are we doing? How's your week been?
Well, I'm self-isolating. So someone in my school, in my class, one of the children tested positive. So I'm talking to the walls. So nice. This is the best thing I've done all week.
Yeah. Wow. It must be bad. It's hard self-isolating, especially because you're on your own, Dad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, it's just nuts how, I don't want to get political early on in the podcast, but certainly how you can have 60,000 people at Wembley and all these other major events happening, and I've got to self-isolate, and it's just bizarre.
Even though it's football?
I'd have accepted 59,000. But it's...
Do you know what's just come to my mind then? Darren at home, Thomas, dressed as Freddie Mercury in that video where he's dressed up like it's the woman doing all the cleaning in the house. I want to break free.
I tell you what I am doing, Simon. I'm going to shut my curtains from now on.
Imagine that. Darren would be dressed
that would be brilliant. Yeah. Freddie Mercury dressed as Freddie Mercury, dressed as a woman.
How you doing, Thomas?
I'm great, mate. You know me, I don't like to complain. I've just done a 10 days isolation. Just got out. Birthday yesterday. And
did you say I don't like to complain?
No, I don't like to complain. You know me.
Thomas, many happy returns and all that.
Well then.
Yeah.
How old are you, Thomas? Are you 50?
I'm a lot younger than you two. We know that.
How? He can't be younger than us, Simon.
Not a chance.
Me.
Surely that is just a joke.
I'm not going to lie. Look at the 2 years. I know this isn't a full HD screen that I'm looking at now, but you look terrible.
Excuse me. I've put on the special stuff today to make my forehead nice and shiny.
Have you had the fluffer in again?
The fluffer's been in, and he's dressed up as Freddie Mercury.
All right, so the plan is today we're going to talk about the Euros, which we know Thomas will be fully engaged with because he loves it, and then we're going to do our Premier League Team of the Year. So we're a little bit behind on the Team of the Year, but it gives us a bit of time to think about it. I've got to be honest, I'm not quite there with mine yet because I've got too many players from a certain team, which I know Thomas will be the same because surely at least 50% of his team will be from Liverpool. But we will get onto that later. But we're going to kick off with the Euros. Thomas, I know you're not a massive fan, but how have you been getting on with it so far?
I've watched about 1.5 games. I watched 3/4 of England the other night.
Let's see how his maths is. Go on.
They're absolutely useless, aren't they? They bored me to tears. Good first half, and then second half they were rubbish. I turned it off after the disallowed Henderson's goal. I thought, what a travesty. Turned it off. And then I watched a little bit of France last night, and that was all right. I enjoyed it, actually.
That was a great game.
First bit that I've enjoyed. But to be honest, I'm purposely not putting it on just in case I actually start enjoying it and then want to watch it. because I've slagged it off that much.
Yeah.
I actually cheered when England scored as well, which I was so embarrassed.
Oh, you've let me down there.
I was on my own. I went upstairs, threw it on upstairs, and I thought, you know what, I'll watch a bit of it. And then England scored and I cheered, and I thought, what is happening to you? You're a disgrace.
Yeah. You're going to have to start taking your flags back in outside.
He's changed, hasn't he, Daz? You know,
he has changed.
He's supporting England, and he's strategically positioned a lamp in the background so it looks really professional.
It is professional.
He'll come on the next podcast in that England flag face paint.
Yeah. Oh, I did see a video the other day of some fella painting a roundabout. It was one of those really flat white roundabouts.
Oh yeah,
the red across it.
Oh my goodness me!
People are crazy.
It's getting interesting now. I think the Euros, because the group games are always a bit cagey for some teams, particularly England. And I look at England.
For the early group games are a bit crap, aren't they?
They are. The first one's okay because people want to try and get the win. The second games can be a bit boring. And the third games, it's just political, where you want to try and finish to match whoever, but then there's so many results. And that's what was interesting last night with the Portugal, France, Germany, Hungary games, is that who were England going to play? You'd never in a million years think Hungary would get results against Germany, but they did. England's going back to England. I think England's issue is they're just too safe as a nation in terms of they've got these. We go back to the golden generation we had with the Beckham and Gerrard Scholes. We've got that generation almost again with certain players, and yet we haven't learned anything from it. You know, I'd like to see us really go for it and be expansive in our football, be attacking. If you're playing two defensive midfield players, then fullback get high, get players who can run with the ball and to get us out. He doesn't do that. It's all too safe.
But he did it the wrong way round, didn't he? I thought his formation, because I thought, and I get his logic, go all out in the first half and then close shop a little bit in the second. But you'd almost think people like Grealish and Saka are going to do better at a time when the other team are getting more and more tired. But what happened was we went back into our shell in the second half. So it almost didn't make any sense. It got really boring in the second half. I ended up not watching it for probably the last half an hour because it was just boring. And it shouldn't be like that, especially in a game you've already qualified. Why not go after them? Why not try and really put them under pressure and go and win the game by a decent margin? We know we're a much better side than them. We beat them 5-0 not long ago. Why not go after them? I didn't really understand that. But I think the first half, he did set up well in the first half, I thought.
Yeah. I wanted them to change formation, try something different, and maybe go to one defensive midfield player and let them all just go and play and enjoy the game. Get Grealish, Saka and Foden on, Sancho on, give them game time, because the danger is when we need them, they're not going to have that match sharpness, if you like. Get Kane out, put Calvin Lewin in, get people running, and it just looks a bit too slow and it looks a bit too possession based with no penetration.
Yeah, so Jermaine Genius said something yesterday. I don't normally say nice things about Jermaine Genius, but he said yesterday, one of the worries is the quality of the games that teams like Germany, France, Portugal had been playing. And at this stage, we didn't know who we were playing versus the quality of games that we've been playing in. And then all of a sudden, we're going to go into the knockouts. And although Germany haven't looked that great, they've had to play against much better sides. And then Hungary have obviously given them a game because Hungary have got it all to play for. If they'd have won that game, they'd have gone through.
Yeah.
So they've given them a game. They've really gone after it. But we haven't. We've just, I mean, it's like a training match.
Yeah. What I heard in the commentary as well was that Southgate has formulated the plan that he's looked at previous tournaments and followed the routes of the winners and the finalists from the last 10 tournaments, say, and he's followed the progress and how they've set up and how they've gone on to win that tournament or to get to the very end of it. And they haven't played expansive football. They've been the better sides that generally have won it. But he said the teams that have had the best shape, that have had the best defence and closing games out are the teams that have gone on to win it. And the teams that have been expansive and people have gone on to say, wow, what a good team they were that year, haven't gone anywhere. Or they've got to the knockout stages, come up against a team that shape's been really good, really hard to get round, really hard to break the lines, and they've found it really difficult. And then they've been beaten 1-0 or 2-0 and they've been sent home. And he's looked at that and said, well, that's the way we're going to set up. We're going to set up specifically to be really hard to beat and to go long in the tournament. So if someone's going to beat us, they're going to have to totally outplay us, and that's what he's looked at. Whether it's going to work, I don't know.
But if he thinks we're solid in our shape, then I have no idea what game he's watching. Because there were times in the Scotland game and in the game against the Czechs where we were wide open in the middle of the park. And not only in the middle of the park, but in behind the central midfielders as well. And that's a mixture of issues with the defence not pushing out far enough because they're not confident. And then the midfield pushing too far up and getting caught, chasing the ball. But if we're getting caught out when he's trying to play that way, what happens when actually he tries to play expansive? It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
I also think you've got to have the players. You know, it's football's not a formulaic sport. You can't say it's not American football where it's pattern and you go, we're going to do this now, stop, start, we're going to do this now. There's too many variables. And unfortunately, I think, you know, England are so desperate to do well in every tournament, and it's overhyped. And I saw an article and a 15-minute sort of presentation on Jack Grealish being the saviour and all this, and we build it up all the time. And I'm like, no, just go and play. These players play in the toughest league in the world every single week, and they play well every single week. Foden is world class. Grealish is a very good player. But what they do is they go to England and they change how these players have played with their clubs. You know, and that's just ridiculous.
But there was
Get
some
out
chat
there.
about Foden, wasn't there? There was some chat about what's going on with Foden, with him getting left out the squad.
Yeah, he got left out because he's on a yellow.
Yeah, because he's on a yellow, and if he got another
Yeah, yeah.
yellow,
He'd missed the last 6. Yeah, and because
Yeah,
we'd
yeah.
already qualified, they just dropped him off the
Yeah,
squad
it
altogether.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, which makes, of course, it makes sense.
but I think
what I'm saying is,
that's where Southgate will do well. I think in his football awareness, he's pretty good. I think where he struggles, or where I think he struggles, is the tactics and applying them on the park. Because obviously they're obviously happy with each other. They all seem like they're behind each other. They've got a good relationship within the camp, but it just doesn't come off on the pitch.
I think sometimes his in-game management, I think he struggles with to change a game. I think he's good at almost the admin side of being the manager, in terms of making sure everyone's good and happy, all thinking the same thing. And I think he's done that very well with this group of players. The issue is, I think he's not expansive enough in how he wants to go about games. It's all right shutting up shop and trying to get that 1-0, but actually that's a dangerous game to play as well. I'd rather go and attack. For example, Liverpool, like when they won the league, first 20 minutes, half an hour, were absolutely superb in games and would get 2 or 3 goals. Then they would shut up shop and play counter-attack on football because they could.
Yeah, but but you were just saying before, his in-game management is not great, and I agree. But some of the best managers in the world are not great with in-game management. Look at you watch Klopp in some of the situations that Liverpool have been in, and you look at his changes and you think, I've got no idea what game you're watching. I also think it's very different to us watching it on the TV and someone standing on the sideline and watching it. They're seeing something very different. They know the players in a different way. I just hope that he gets over that. But it's funny because what you're just saying about making it work on the field and you know, how they act together on the field and all that kind of stuff, it seems like Wales have got that nailed.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the way they're acting around the game. They've done really well to get through, finish second in a difficult group. And I think they've done really well in every game. And they look like they're right behind each other. If they can get Bale and Ramsey playing in every game and playing well in every game, they've got a chance of winning. They haven't got a chance of winning the tournament. They've certainly got a chance of going through the next round.
I like Ramsey. I like how he started actually the tournament, and he'd be someone I think who'd come back to the Premier League in the summer. I think it'd be worth 1 or 2 teams looking at him, because I think he's been injury free now for quite a while, because there was issues, wasn't there, with injuries. I quite like him. I think he's a really clever player. He's good on the ball. He can move around the pitch. I think someone should try and go and snap him up from Juventus, is it?
It'd be a good signing for Everton. But just going back to England, I think the biggest problem that England are going to have going forward is when they face the likes of, Germany in the next round, is if Germany get an early goal, it's then having to turn the game around and changing from what we're saying, or what I'm saying is that they're trying to be difficult to beat, not leave too many gaps, even though against the Czechs they weren't very good. Czechs created loads of chances, but if they do concede an early goal, they're going to struggle. Yeah. They're going to struggle, and especially, I mean, the draw's been very kind, minus this game. All the top teams have gone to the other side of the draw now, minus Germany. So if they get past Germany, they've got a great chance of going quite far. The issue they've got is the Germans know how to play knockout football, and we always struggle.
And Holland is in our side of the draw as well. So if you get past Germany, the likelihood is Holland would be the semi-final, wouldn't it? If you get that far.
I think Sweden. Well. I think Sweden could be next after Germany.
Yeah, Sweden.
Yeah. But to be honest, I'd fancy me chances against Holland, because they, even though they look great going forward, they don't look great at the back.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So there's chances there for our good attacking players, if he lets them off the leash to have a go at them. They'd have a good go. The problem is it's getting past the machine of Germany that know how to win, and they just win and know how to get results, and they just churn them out. So it's going to be a tight game next week. To be honest, I might even watch the whole game.
Thomas, don't say nothing you're not going to do, mate. It's not worth it.
Been shaky, the Germans. Well, let's just run through what's happened so far. So We talked about the first couple of games. Since then, Wales beat Turkey, Italy beat Switzerland 3-0, and they were both comfortable wins. Then in the last games in that group, Italy beat Wales 1-0. Thought they did pretty well, Wales against a good Italy team. And Switzerland beat Turkey 3-1. So what that meant is Italy and Wales at the automatic qualification, and then Switzerland qualified as one of the best third place teams. I don't think Switzerland have got another win in them. I think they're on the way out. But I think both Wales and Italy could potentially go through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Italy, to be fair. They've done a job, scored goals. Yeah, very impressed with them.
Yeah, I like the way they play as well. It's exciting. And they go after teams as well, which is funny because Italy teams generally haven't done that. But I think it might be just because it's a younger team. But they've looked really good. In Group B, we had Denmark got beat by Belgium. And that was closer than I thought it would be. So Belgium won 2-1. De Bruyne looked fantastic again. Then Denmark beat Russia 4-1. And Belgium beat Finland 2-0. So Belgium and who else went through? Belgium and Denmark went through. Yeah. Finland didn't go through. So, I mean, they were the people who you would expect to go through. The one thing that I thought might happen is Russia may sneak in. But Russia did not look good in any of the games either, did they?
No, they look an age and team as well, don't they?
Yeah.
To be fair, Denmark
good in was Finland.
Yeah, Denmark have looked decent, in terms of what they've had to put up with in the tournament so far, and it's great that they qualify because I think the spirit of the team and everything that's gone on, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, they did well. In Group C, we had Holland beat Austria 2-0. North Macedonia got beat by Holland 3-0 in the second to last game, and then Austria beat Ukraine 1-0 in the last game. So then you end up with Holland, Austria, and Ukraine going through. Who'd have thought that?
Yeah.
I mean, North Macedonia were never going through, but I actually thought that would be the other way around. I thought Ukraine would be ahead of Austria, but I think that puts us in a decent position because it's Sweden and Ukraine in the in the other game. Liverpool,
England.
We'll go for England, Simon. Yeah, we'll go for England.
What's going on? I haven't even in that is water.
Yeah, they all say that.
So then in our group, in the England group, England obviously drew with Scotland 0-0, and that was a really poor game. I thought Scotland did really well. England did really poor, which then just leveled the playing field. And if anything, I thought Scotland played better than England did. They controlled the middle of the park. Billy Gilmour was outstanding. Shame he's gone off with COVID, but it ended up being a nothing game for England and a decent game for Scotland. Unfortunately, then Scotland didn't do that well in the standings. They finished bottom of the table, and England, Croatia went through. Did the Czech Republic go? They did, didn't they? Czech Republic went through as well.
Yeah.
Even though they got beat 1-0 by England in the last game.
Yeah, so they went to third and Croatia finished second in the group.
Yeah. I was surprised at that as well. Croatia didn't look good.
Not at all, but
they've got decent players.
Yeah, they've got... Go on, Thomas.
They won the midfield battle against Scotland, didn't they? Billy Gilmour was a massive loss to Scotland after how well he played against England. And Luka Modric bossed the game, didn't he? And scored a worldie with the outside of his foot.
Yeah.
So we've seen the goals.
There's talk of Billy Gilmour possibly going on a season-long loan somewhere in the Prem.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, be interested in that because I think he's good enough to play for Chelsea at the moment. But
I don't think that'd be a good move for him, though, Daz.
I don't.
Some of the fringe players who potentially who look like superstars of the future go down to a team lower down the Premier League, and they just don't fit. It feels different. They're treated differently. They're treated like superstars, and then do they ever make it to become the superstar? You don't generally see that often, do you?
No, they almost get lost in the league. And I think at Chelsea, he's played. Souness made a great point today. He's playing with quality world class players that will improve his game. He'll get chances, and it's proven that he can do it at the top level.
Yeah. Well, I think every time he plays, he's close to or gets man of the match. Every time I've seen him play, he's won man of the match.
Yeah. So then you had, in the next group, Spain qualified. They beat Slovakia 5-0. Was that yesterday or Dave? Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday, yeah.
They were outstanding. Those Spain Slovakia was absolutely terrible.
Morata missed the pen again, didn't he?
I didn't see that. I only caught the back end of the game.
So he's missed 2 penalties. He's missed 2 penalties now in the competition.
Really?
Yeah, and he just doesn't look like scoring at all. And for Spain, they're almost just getting through. And then the last game, the team they played were awful, to be honest. Defensively, they were poor. But it gives you confidence when you're scoring 5 goals. And that momentum that we spoke about, it'll carry them through.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you see the howler by the goalie, Dubravka?
Oh, it was terrible, wasn't it? Great goal, though.
Punched the ball, it wasn't. It was absolutely horrific. Great effort, hit the crossbar. Really well. But then to punch it in his own net when he could have just tipped it over the bar was horrendous.
So you had Sweden and Spain, who both went through from that group.
Sweden are a decent side. I think they're not going to be the pushover that people think they are.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're going far, but they'll certainly give people a game.
Yeah.
And I think that's likely to be, if England can get past Germany, that's likely to be the next game. I don't think Ukraine will beat them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, England could get to the semis here if they get past Germany.
Yeah, definitely.
The issue you've got is watch England, they'll deliver next week. They'll beat Germany, really tight game, and they'll get the win, and then they'll get beat something like 2 or 3-0 by Sweden because they think that they're better than they are.
Yeah.
That's typical England, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then obviously we had the 2 games last night. Germany drawing with Hungary 2-2 and Portugal drawing with France 2-2. That's what I was talking about. Havertz doing well on the line when the keeper come back to try and save it. He did really well on the line. But again, you would never have called Hungary-Germany 2-2 in Munich.
Yeah.
And did you see that support behind the goal for Hungary as well? Unbelievable.
It was great. And for Hungary, that's a massive, massive result for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter they've gone out. The fact that they drew 2-2 with the mighty Germany.
Yeah.
In the competition, it's huge. Germany look as though they're just not quite there at the moment. They look as though they're slightly out of sorts. We all know this is the German manager's last tournament. He's losing the job, isn't it? Or they're moving someone else in after this tournament. So you don't know whether the players are going to play for him. You just don't know. I just think they just don't look as fluent as they have done in previous tournaments.
They don't look great. And then on the other hand, I thought France looked excellent again. Should have won that game. Portugal did well, but I don't think Portugal looked as good as they have done in the past. And I would have put my money on France winning that game. And then in the end, obviously, for 5 minutes, they were just passing the ball around, taking turns of keeping it in the defence and not really doing anything with it because they both qualified.
Yeah, they're almost second gear, wasn't it? Towards the end of the game, then it was just like, okay, we both know we're fine. Let's keep it at this. But France are interested as well. I just think they've not quite fired. I don't think yet. I think they're playing well. But I think there's more. There's another gear or two for them to go to.
Well, I thought Pogba was outstanding. I thought Benzema did really well. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Pogba was outstanding going forward. Was useless defending, but I think he's always like that. Benzema looked on fire. That finish for the first goal was a cracker. Did really well. Great ball from Pogba. Constantly putting the defence under pressure. And he's a really smart footballer. He hasn't got a massive amount of pace, but what a player.
Yeah, he's been around for years, hasn't he, as well? He knows the score.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Watches both.
One thing I picked up on from the whole games that I've seen, or the little bits of games that I've seen, is the refereeing's been absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. And
the way they've gone to VAR, or haven't, has been outstanding. But I was a bit shocked at that penalty last night.
Shoulder bag.
It was never a penalty in a million years. And that referee's a good referee. He's a very good referee, actually. And for them to come back and say, yeah, that's you haven't done nothing wrong there and you give the right decision, is shocking. And that's what we want to see. VAR pull blatant mistakes up. Let the game run like they have been doing, but pick that up and say, listen, you've made a mistake there. That's never a penalty.
Do you know one of the things that I think has been better with VAR? Okay, you're absolutely right. That was never a penalty. But one of the things that's been better is they've been pretty quick with the decisions. Whereas if you look at the Premier League this year, that's been one of the things that has killed the Premier League, how slow they've gone through the decision making. In this tournament, even though that was a terrible decision. They're getting to the decision really quickly.
Yeah, I think if they can't make a decision within 30 seconds, then the referee's made the right call. Carry on.
Yeah. I totally agree, Thomas. I think if you can't make it in 30 seconds, it's not a clear and obvious error. It's as simple as that. And then it'll keep the game flowing. And you're right, it has been quite good. The VAR, you've hardly noticed it, if that makes sense, where it's become more important in the Premier League. Hopefully, the FA will look at it, the Premier League will look at it and learn from it. That's what you hope.
Well, I was listening to a podcast today with Mark Clattenburg. He's on the Carragher podcast.
The Greatest Game.
Oh, right.
Yeah, The Greatest Game is really good. But he was talking about VAR, and he was saying it's the problem you've got with VAR is not the theory, it's the application, which we all know. The rules, some of the rules that have been put in place don't suit VAR. So we worked up towards this, give the attacker the advantage, but you can't give the attacker the advantage with VAR. It's offside or not offside. Yeah. It's handball or not handball. Well, that's the theory.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's black and white. And he was saying there's countries that are using it much better. In the Premier League, we've just been too slow. And he said, well, one of the things that we have a problem with is the referee goes to the monitor and then they show the referee from angles that he could never have seen and at a pace that he could never have seen. And then he makes the decision. He said also, as they're walking towards the monitor, the person watching it from the VAR office is telling them in their ear why they've told them to go to the monitor. So you're immediately telling them why they've got it wrong.
Yeah.
And what decision they should make. So I think that there are some faults there. The technology is not necessarily the issue.
Yeah, but I think we all sort of knew that anyway. I think the issue is how it's been applied in the Premier League. And it's almost a micromanaging of it, which I don't like.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so here's the rundown of the games for the next round. We've got Wales versus Denmark in Amsterdam, Italy versus Austria at Wembley, Holland versus Czech Republic in Budapest, Belgium versus Portugal in Seville. That's going to be a game.
Yeah.
Croatia versus Spain, Copenhagen. I think that'll be a decent game as well. France versus Switzerland, Bucharest, England versus Germany at Wembley, and then Sweden versus Ukraine in Hampden Park.
All those games there, they're actually, it sounds silly to say this, but they're actually quite matched up. Yeah. And it should all be decent games.
Yeah. As Thomas said, though, you've got to hope that with the look of the draw that we've had in terms of who we've got on our side, you won't get a better chance to get to a final.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because the game after this is Sweden or Ukraine. Then you're into a semi and England can't win semis, but I was going to say anyone can win a semi.
Yeah, steady on. So many jokes going through my head there. We have to stop.
Stop it, Dad. So again, let's have now that we've seen the games, what are we thinking in terms of who's going to win? Have we changed our mind? Who did you have last time, Tom?
Can't remember.
Darren?
Okay.
I can't see past France still at the moment. I think there's a couple of little outside bets that might be worth putting 50p each way on. But certainly France look like the front runners to me.
Yeah, I think France definitely.
Yeah, so you've definitely moved. So me and Darren were on France last time. You were on, so I can't remember whether it was
Belgium.
Yeah,
Belgium, yeah.
But yeah, I'm still on France. And I think you're right, Daz. I don't think they've quite clicked yet. I don't think they've got to the stage where they are playing the flow of football that you'd expect them to play, but they just look better. And I think me and Thomas spoke last night, and he said straight away, either of these teams will beat England. Because they've got more better individuals. They move the ball better. They're more earnest in the way they play the game. They play much further up the park. They put the defenses under pressure. And then they've also got those players that can, turn a game on its head. And I think that's where we struggle, is that we don't buy into those players. One of the things that will be really interesting to see is whether he's got a set of balls and he plays people like Grealish and Saka in the next round.
I thought they've got loads of balls. They've got Nike balls, haven't they? They got a big bag of them.
Hey! And you know what, Simon? That wasn't one of my jokes.
It sounded like one of yours.
It did sound like one of mine.
All right. So let's move on to the main reason we're doing this podcast today, which is our Premier League Team of the Year. So we've talked about this off and on for the last couple of months, and I think there's really good arguments. We also have the benefits of the fact that everyone else has done a Premier League Team of the Year. So
Yeah.
so it was a little bit easier to do the research. But I found it really difficult because I thought City were outstanding this year. I don't think they started the year strong, but they finished amazingly. And there's a bit of a drop-off to the rest. And Liverpool were not where they should have been. United did not look great, especially in certain parts of the season. Tottenham were poor. It just didn't pan out the way you would have expected it to. Chelsea and Arsenal were not quite there. But when you start looking through the individuals, there's plenty of players. So I've got a team, but I will be chopping and change them as we go through it. So what we'll do is we'll go position by position. And then when we're done, we will put it onto a document and we'll put it up with the podcast.
Okay, Simon, quick question.
Yeah.
What formation are we going for?
You can go for any formation you want, Daz. I'm going for 4-3-3.
So am I.
Okay.
What are you going for, Daz?
I'm going for a sort of 4-1-3-2.
Spot the coach.
So well, just outside, gone past.
What we'll do is we'll go keeper, then we'll run through the defence, then we'll do the whatever you're calling your midfield, Daz, and then we'll go the front three. So I'll kick it off with keeper, and I think this is a difficult one because I actually think there's been a couple of keepers who've had good years. I think Ederson's had a decent year. Pope has had a really good year. Mendy has been great, a great addition to the team. But I'm going to go with Martinez.
Sorry, something in my eye there, Simon. just.
I'm going with Martinez because I think it's much more difficult to play for a team like Villa, where there's a lot more chances against. You've got to dominate the game a lot more as a keeper. I thought he was outstanding in loads of games this year. Great shot stopper, good at commanding his box, come back with loads of confidence after being at Arsenal. And I was really impressed with him. I thought the others had decent years and you could probably give it to any of them, but Martinez for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. One, because it's a Villa goalie. But also, when you look at Villa's games, you're right, we were under a cosh quite a lot this year in games. And he's probably got us 12 to 15 points. You know, and for Villa, that takes us from the bottom six to a mid-table comfortable position.
Absolutely.
You know, and you can't underestimate that as a team. It just gives confidence to your back four, gives confidence to how you're going to play. You know he's a good shot stopper. You know he's going to command his area. He's a big guy. You know, when you look at goalkeepers in the Premier League, you're almost spoiled for choice at times. But when you look at the impact they have on the team, I think Martinez is a standout candidate.
And then at the same time, Ederson had the most clean sheets, but he was playing in a team that had the least chances against him. So,
yeah, to be fair, Bob out of our team could play for City. Apart from his footwork.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I had it between two. I had one clear winner, and I've agreed with you two. I've gone with Martinez as well, and he had 14 clean sheets this year. But the reason why I went for him was because he won you a lot of points, Darren. He won Villa a lot of points just by being really hard to beat. He made some brilliant saves, and Ederson, like Simon just said, didn't face that many shots to get that many clean sheets. But 14 clean sheets for what position did you finish, Darren? Villa.
I think finished 10th. I think.
So that's brilliant. He was very good. The only thing that I would sway towards Ederson would be his distribution. His distribution is second to none in the league. But other than that, Martinez was a clear winner for me for goalkeeper. Well done.
Love it.
I think we should just stop now because it's done quite well.
All right. So next up is right back. So we're all doing a back four. So right back for me, and I think there were a few here, but I think Cancelo was the winner for me. I thought he was outstanding. Had a great season. I think he added to that solid defense for City this year, which kept the chances out from Ederson, and got them over the line. I think he played really well, And I think if you look at individual ability, for me, he stands out.
Yeah.
Go on, Thomas,
totally agree. I picked Cancelo as well for right back. The reason being was, I think in European football, I think he was the outstanding fullback in all of Europe last year. He was that good. And there was a couple of occasions where Pep tactically moved him up and slid him into midfield. And he was just outstanding there. So, there wasn't, no one come close really.
Created 1.6 chances per 90 minutes in open play. Apparently that's really good for a right back.
It's all right. I mean, I haven't played there. It's okay. Don't get me wrong. Because we've almost put restrictions. We must tell about restrictions. There can only be 3 players from one team. Yeah. Just because I went for someone who I think's had a great season and a great impact on their team. I've gone for James at Chelsea. And the reason I've gone for James at Chelsea is because I do think he can get up and down the line. I think his distribution's quite good. I think he's a good defender, first and foremost. So I just felt, for me, I think he was a good, solid right back. There was other nominations. I mean, Trent finished the season well, but he didn't have a great season. Matty Cash is a steady 6 or 7 out of 10 every week. There are decent right backs at the moment.
Walker's in there as well, isn't he?
Who, sorry?
Walker,
yeah, quality. But I just think, for me, James just edged it over those players.
Okay, I think that's a decent call. Actually, he was in my list, but as I say, for me, Cancelo was the one. All right, centre half. So there's obvious ones here, but my first one is gonna be Conor Cody. So you talk about impact on the team that you play for as well, and Wolves have not had a fantastic year, but he is the standout player for them, I think, all the time. His distribution's fantastic. His game management is outstanding. I'd love to see him playing more than an England shirt. I don't think he was the best centre-half this year, but because I'm limited in the players that I'm picking, he has to be he was definitely second on my list, so I'm going for Conor Cody. And he's a scouser as well. I like that.
I like Conor Cody as a player. I think he plays absolutely brilliantly in a back 3 as a centre in the back 3. I think if England were doing that, he'd be my number 1 choice to play in the centre-half position. Somewhat slightly then, if we're going almost left field, Simon, I've gone for a centre-half who I think is going to be and probably turn out to be a really quality class player, Godfrey from Everton. I like Godfrey from Everton. I think he's got pace. He can win a ball in the air. He loves a strong tackle. And as a defender, I think he's been absolutely quality for Everton this year. He's played left back. He's played right back. I think his best position will be centre half. And I might please Everton fans here, but he reminds me of like Kevin Ratcliffe when he came to Everton. That sort of tenacity in his game. I think he'll go on and play for his country. I've got really high hopes to see how he develops this year.
Good shout, that.
He's rock solid. He's very quickly become a fan's favourite, hasn't he? Because of his never say die attitude and his wholeheartedness going through the ball and his aggression. He's already made his debut for England, Darren. He made it just before the tournament. So
yeah, I think he might get more caps. Sorry,
he's been absolutely outstanding. But I've gone for another one that's left field as well. I went for Konza at Villa.
Got him on here.
I had him down.
I think, well, I had a toss-up. There's an obvious one that I think we're all going to pick, but I had a toss-up between Fofana, who I thought was outstanding before his bad injury, and Konza. But then the reason why I went for Konza was he's got that fool Mings next to him who thinks he's a far better footballer than he is. And Konza just does everything lovely. He just wins the ball, knows his limitations, lays it off, gives it to someone that can play football in front of him. He defends wholeheartedly. He does it right. He tracks a man. He very rarely gets beat in the air. He doesn't switch off like Mings does, or he doesn't try and run it over the halfway line and beat a couple of players and leave his team isolated at the back. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. And what I didn't know was he's an England under-21 international. And I was very shocked that England, the first team, haven't looked at him because he's been brilliant.
Yeah. That's a good left field pick. I like that.
Konza has been absolutely brilliant for Villa this year, and you're right, Thomas. I like the fact he goes under the radar quite a bit. There was talk at one point Liverpool looking after him. I think when Liverpool were going through a bit of a centre-half crisis. I've got high hopes for Konza. I think he'll go on and play for England. I think he's one for the future as well. But he was my other centre-half pick. I had 3, and he's the one I left out.
Yeah. So I also had Fofana on the list, and I had Konsa as well. But I'm going for my second centre-half playing alongside Cody is Ruben Diaz. Outstanding. I honestly don't even think it's close. While Van Dijk is not playing, Ruben Diaz is by far the best centre-half in the league. Not only that, he makes John Stones look decent as well, which I don't think is easy. So I think he's been outstanding this year. So I was going to go away from him, so I didn't pick another City player, but I just don't think you can't have him at centre-half. You've got to have him there. So I'm going with Diaz.
I agree. The impact that he's had on City was exactly what when Van Dijk went to Liverpool. He's had that same kind of impact. One player of the year. I don't know, did he get players player of the year as well?
Sure.
He was absolutely outstanding, rock solid, reads the game really well. Very difficult for anyone to get past. And he's very intimidating. And once you get that about you, it takes a long time for the opposition to get over that fear, thinking that they're ever going to get past you, like Van Dijk.
Yeah.
It took teams long time to think, you know what, we're going to get past him, or even have a go at him, or we'll go on the other centre-half and try them instead. You know, fantastic. What a great season he's had.
Yeah, as an intimidating centre-half myself, Thomas, as you know,
Yeah.
it's I can recognise the qualities. Yeah, I can recognise the qualities you're talking about. He's a footballer, you know, and as a centre-half, he's class.
You got Daz?
I've got Diaz.
Hey!
Yeah, I went for Diaz. I think that's just a one that everyone's going to pick. I think he's had a superb. I just want to know if Simon's picking all the City back four, or is he just going to choose something else?
I had them all on there. So left back, and I hate this because I don't think I've got a choice but to pick.
I think you need to let someone else go first, because we're going to have a lot of the same ones. So give someone else a chance.
I'll do defence.
Okay.
Darren can do midfield. You can do attack.
All right.
So for me, left back is Shaw. I hate the fact that that's it, but he's a decent player. I mean, to be fair, I think he put on a load of weight. He looked like Chunk off the Goonies at one stage.
He did the truffle shuffle.
All of a sudden, he started playing really well. Lost a bit of weight. Now all of a sudden, he's really fast as well. Where's that come from? But I think he's a decent player. So I'm going for him. Based on the year he had, this year gone, I'm going for Luke Shaw.
Yeah, I like Luke Shaw. I think he's done a decent job. He was one I was looking at. However, I can't get away from who I would argue was probably one of the best left backs in Europe. He's had a good season considering the rest of the team haven't, and it's Robertson from Liverpool. I just can't see how you can't pick him. He's got everything you want for as a defender. He's horrible. He's quick. He get up and down the line. He puts a great ball in. And Liverpool haven't been great. But when you watch Liverpool, he's been the one player who you would say is giving everything, and he's up there the way he used to play. So I can't go past Robinson for this as left back.
Love it.
Totally agree with what you're saying, Darren. He started every Premiership game for Liverpool this year. His form at times was a bit up and down. Always gives you 100%, but his quality just wasn't there. But I think the quality dropped off in the whole team through the season. So there's patches where, you know, we couldn't hit a barn door, or he's putting it over the bar, or too far over the players in the box. And we played Man United, and Luke Shaw got man of the match and was absolutely outstanding. And every game I've seen after that, I thought, do you know what? He's improved massively going forward with his distribution, Luke Shaw, and defensively, he was really difficult to get past. He had Salah in his pocket in one game. So I was really impressed with Shaw. But I still think he's too overweight, and he's carrying a bit too much, or his natural body shape is he looks a bit podgy. But for the season that he's had, I think he's been the best left back in the league. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, I'd have to pick Luke Shaw.
Like it. I like it.
It's definitely getting recorded, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely on the recording. Like that, you're gonna go to the midfield. But I think we're all going to use a holding midfielder. I'm definitely not going to use two. I'm going to use one. And Daz, you're going to have one person sat in there, aren't you?
Yeah.
You can start with the holding midfielder.
Probably the best holding midfield player in the world football is Kante, and again he just epitomises how you should play football. I was watching a clip the other night of how he plays, and he's so clever in his runs. He's so clever at when to close down, when to nip in, when to make the tackle, when to run with the player. He's thinking all the time in the game, and as a defensive midfield player, you can't switch off. He also allows, he's that good, he allows other players to play and go beyond him because they know he'll cover everything. I don't think there's a blade of grass in the Premier League he hasn't got to. He's just phenomenal. And actually, he's got good feet. He can pass a ball, and his support play is unbelievable. So I can't see past him as a defensive midfield player.
Good shout. Yeah, I'm going to go for Kante as well. Even you look at him now playing for France, and he, no matter how many players around him, he always looks like he's got time. And by the way, how long are his legs?
Yeah.
He looks really short, but he doesn't seem to lose the ball out of his control at all. Unbelievable. Great again last night, just in the midfield. What he does is just let Pogba go and do what he wants, because Pogba will not track a man, but it doesn't matter while Kante's in there. So yeah, I'm going to go with Kante as well.
I've gone for Kante, but a close second. But the reason why I didn't go for him, Fabinho, was he played a lot at centre half this year. Now, Liverpool with 10 points off the Champions League places with 10 games to go, he moved back into midfield, and I think Liverpool had the best record out of any team in the Premiership for the last 10 games, which goes to show how important Fabinho is when he plays in that role in midfield. Just dictates the ball. He closes the space down. He's just phenomenal player. Kante has just edged it because he's played there all season. But I did think before Christmas he wasn't up to speed. I don't think he was that good before Christmas. And then after Christmas he's hit his stride. And there isn't a player, Fabinho close, not quite there. Kante for me as well there.
But he hasn't got in any of the. If you look at the Premier League teams of the year, didn't get in.
Wow.
Didn't get in. I mean, the midfield was pretty good. If you haven't got the restriction of City players, then Gundogan is definitely a challenger for him because of the way he plays the game. And then there are obviously a lot of decent midfielders, but he didn't get in there.
Yeah.
One I looked at for that role is Wijnaldum.
Yeah.
I think
I've looked at him for another role in midfield as well.
Yeah. I just think he's going to be a massive loss for Liverpool, and you won't realise till he's not there. I think he's playing well for Holland at the moment as well. But I rate him highly.
All right, where are we going next, Az?
Should we go for right midfield?
Yeah, go on.
I've gone for someone who I think actually, when people looked at City, they wondered whether he'd fit in and be good enough. And Phil Foden on the right in my system works really well. I think he's a class act. I think he can pass it, he can run with it, he tracks back. He's got everything you want in a footballer. I think because he's playing with those world-class players, he's going to get better and better. We talked, Sam, before about players dropping down to another Premier League club, and he'd be one who'd get lost in another Premier League club because his thinking is similar to those world-class players. And when you haven't got them around you, you look average. And I think with him, the fact that he stayed at City, one, tells you how much Pep thinks of him, and two, the fact that he's worked hard to get into that team once Silva left. And I think when he doesn't play, they don't look the same.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at when Silva was going, Foden did not look like a replacement. Now all of a sudden he looks outstanding. Thomas, who have you got?
Because I've got Kante as my steady Eddie behind everyone, I've gone for two more forward-thinking players. So I've gone for De Bruyne on the right there, and I don't think there's a player that comes close to De Bruyne in the league in midfield when he's on his game. I think see a pass, he dictates the play. He can slow the game right down to walking pace and still dictate. And then all of a sudden, it's gone. The ball's up front, or he's scoring from 30 yards, or he's going past the strikers and creating problems. He's just a wonderful player, and he's outstanding. So for me, I've put him in there on the right side of my midfield.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going De Bruyne as well. Not much more to say other than he played a pass the other day in the international game where he had the ball in front of goal and he could have shot himself and he passed it across to the centre forward who scored. There's not many players without looking that can play a pass that easily. It wasn't a long pass or anything. It was just accurate, Timing was perfect. He is unbelievable. Absolute Rolls Royce of a footballer. Yeah, I'll go with him.
Yeah. So I've got him in my centre mid. As you say, he makes the game look simple, and anyone who could do that is world class for me. The top draw players. So we've said all the accolades that we can say about him. He's just a quality footballer who you'll never get tired of watching.
Yeah, I totally agree. Who have you got next, Tom?
On the left, I've gone for someone that I've never rated until this year. And then over the season, he's improved massively. He's always had huge potential. And playing off on the left-hand side, I've gone for Jack Grealish. I was only saying, we had a conversation last night, Simon, that I'd like him at Liverpool. I said, the only one thing that I think that the very top clubs would be a bit disappointed about by him is he looks for a foul every time someone goes near him. And they are fouls, but he's looking for them. He's waiting for that leg to move and he throws his leg across. For some of the top teams, particularly Liverpool, who I'd like to see him come to Liverpool if the opportunity arose, would he slow us down going forward all the time? Would be too many breaks of play, which wouldn't suit Liverpool's style of play. Liverpool is more get the ball, move it quickly, and attack and press and cause them problems. And then when they lose it, we push, win the ball back and score. He does take a lot of fouls and he does slow the game down a little bit, but I do like the way as soon as he gets the ball and there's a bit of space to run into, he just goes. He goes and off either foot, his balance is fantastic. He needs to get to the Alice band. But other than that, I think he's an absolute cracking player and he's got tons of potential to go on and to be a really good world beater.
Yeah, totally agree. He's outstanding and I think he's just getting better and better and better. I think the best thing about him now is he's actually starting to influence the game where I just don't think he was before, or certainly not early on in the Premier League. Now, all of a sudden, people are really worried about him. You can get people constantly doubling up on him. And even when people are doubling up on him, they still can't hold him down. He's still going at people because he's just not scared at all. When the ball drops, away he goes.
Yeah, just on that, Thomas, about going to Liverpool, one, he's not, but two, when you play with better players and their movement's better, you see the game more. And I think at Villa, we have got better players. I mean, I've seen Jack since he was 16 playing for us when we didn't have the quality. We were struggling. That's why he almost got his break, really. But when you're playing with players who think as quick as you, who move as quick as you want them to do, you pick them out all day. Yeah. And I think you look at Bruyne for De Bruyne for Man City. He has that movement. So the balls, he's got to execute them right. But they're on the same wavelength. You're thinking the same thing. And I think if he does go to, and he hopefully won't, if he goes to a team like Liverpool, I think he'll just take over and he'll just become a world beater because he's playing with better players.
I'm guessing we've got him in your midfield, Dad.
Although we did beat you 7-2, just getting that in. Right. I've gone on my Simon, I've gone 4. So I've got Foden, De Bruyne.
Yeah.
And my other one on the left.
Go on.
Sir Jack Grealish.
We could have called that, couldn't we, Daz? Well, I've done a little bit different here. So I've gone with someone who scored 18 goals and had 12 assists.
Ooh.
Fernandes.
Oh, for United.
Yeah. And I think it's really difficult to leave him out your midfield because he's been really influential. I actually think he's not been great in the Euros and he hasn't played as much, but he's been brilliant for United. He's one of the main reasons why they've done as well as they have in the season gone. So I put him in my midfield, but I've got to be honest, Grealish could have been in there, but I figured with the midfield I've got, it would balance it up really well with Fernandes, De Bruyne and Kante.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to say. Fernandes, the impact he had at United was phenomenal. And I think he goes missing in games, to be fair. And then he'll get a penalty and he'll score the penalty, because United get one every game. I think it's in the Premier League rules. But and it'd be interesting how many those goals were penalties. There's no doubt the lad's got ability. Be interested to see how he does this year, I think. But yeah, quality.
All right, so Daz, have you now got a 1 and a 2? Or...
No, I've just got for 2.
So where's your other one then?
So I've got Kante, defensive midfielder, Foden, De Bruyne, Grealish.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then two and strikers.
Tom, you do the forwards. Me and you've got 3. He's got 2.
Okay. I found this really easy. The left of me front three is obviously Mo Salah. He's totally and utterly underrated player. Liverpool.
The left of you from three.
Sorry, me right and me front three. Because he's left-footed, I think. Got myself all mixed up there. Now, for a really underperforming Liverpool side, he's always looked a threat. Even when he's having a bad game and the team's having a bad game, he is just so driven and just so goal hungry that you could never not bet on him to score. He'd tackle his gran, I think, to score a goal. He's that bad. I think he's been brilliant for a poor season all round for the Reds. He's been the one major shining light. Doesn't miss many games through injuries. Always looking to score. Even at the end of the season, he was desperate to score to catch Harry Kane. I think he's had a really good season, and I think he's very underrated.
Yeah, I'm with you. Salah's right side of my three. Again, I think he's been the one player that's really stood out. Gini not far behind him, but I think Salah's just been outstanding. You look at the way our front three have played. They played better towards the end of the year, but they all had issues. But Salah was the only one that was consistent, and even his level of consistency was not as where it has been in previous seasons. But outstanding in a underperforming Liverpool team.
Yeah, superb.
That's.
So I went for two up front, so I haven't got a right or a left really. I struggled with it because there's not many what you would call strikers anymore in the game. You know, Liverpool, Mane, Salah. You know, but I'm going to go for someone, and I'm just making this decision now, as someone who had a massive impact, and I've gone for Calvert-Lewin. And the reason why for Calvert-Lewin is because I think his improvements this season has been outstanding. I don't think he's the finished article at all. I don't think he's going to be a 30 goal for Everton at all. But I do think the impact he's had and his goals he scores and almost the way he plays, if Everton played with a two up front, would benefit him so much more than playing the one up front. So I went for Calvert-Lewin just because I think his improvement this year has been outstanding.
Yeah, good shout. In a two, I think he'd do a really good job.
Yeah, he dipped massively after Christmas for me, and his form first half of the season was outstanding. We talked a lot about his one-touch finishing, his leaping, his goals, his headed goals, unbelievable. After Christmas, I really enjoyed because we were having a poor season. Everton's collapse from winning the league at Christmas to making
winning
champions.
The league.
Yeah, to going in the Champions League, to then let's get in the Europa to attract a couple of decent players to we are absolutely useless, and Calvert-Lewin couldn't hit a barn door on Twitter was fabulous. So I really enjoyed that. He just didn't do it consistently after Christmas. But you're right, first half of the season, he was superb.
I also not that I'm bitter.
Yeah. But I do think, strikers suffer because the team and Everton were playing awful at that time. When Everton were on song, he was the man who was getting the goals. And
yeah.
Well, I think is the way he plays. He plays on the shoulder of the last man, and also that whole kind of one-touch finish. You need the service to be able to do that. You need to be able to get yourself in the box, not worry about trying to win the ball outside the box. And Everton were just useless from that point on, which means he doesn't get as many chances. Anyway, I think that's a good shout. What have you got next, Tom?
It's probably the obvious one. The leading goal scorer in the league. I thought Harry Kane was outstanding this year. And also the way his movement off the ball, I didn't realise how much of a good footballer he was, how clever he was, and how he utilised the runners that he's got in Son and the other players in the Spurs team for him to just come off and peel off the centre halves, find a pocket of space, turn and play his partners in. Considering he scored so many goals for Tottenham, I think he was right up there, huge amount of assists. He was superb. Absolutely superb season. The problem that he's got is that he scores a lot of goals that he creates himself. In a better side, if it's true that he's going to City for 100 million, I'd be really worried about the amount of goals that he scored because he is absolutely brilliant in front of goal. Superb player.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kane as well. 23 goals, 14 assists, outstanding. Great partnership with Son. I agree, Thomas. I think he'll struggle. I don't think he'll struggle long-term at City, but initially I think he'll struggle to settle if he goes there. But I can't really see anywhere else for him to go. Where else is he going to go? He's not going to France. Yeah. He's not going to Spain. He wouldn't suit a Barcelona or a Real Madrid. Well, maybe a Real Madrid, but certainly wouldn't suit a Barcelona. And where else is he going to go in England? There's nowhere else to go. It's got to be Man City.
They're the only team that can afford them, really. United or City or PSG are the only viable moves, really, for teams that have got the money to buy him. I mean, look at Barcelona. They didn't do the Wijnaldum deal because they held out to try and cut his wages. They ended up going to PSG. They're only getting on loan players at the moment until they sort out the wage bill because of the debt. I just can't see him going anywhere other than City.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Thomas, have I read somewhere that Messi hasn't signed a new contract or something? He's got a week or something to
That's right, yeah. I think it's 30th of June, isn't it? That generally all contracts end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who have you got next then, Daz? Not Messi.
I went a bit left field. And I get Kane and he's brilliant and he's had a great season and all that. But I went for someone again who's impacted the team. His movement in the box is phenomenal. And I wish he came to the Premier League 5 years ago. Cavani from Man United. I think Cavani's movement when you watch him play is staggering. And it's those little 5-6 yard movements that got him goals towards the end of the season. But I do think him partnering up Calvert-Lewin would be a great partnership. And with the creativity I've got, yeah, I think Cavani's a good choice.
That's a decent left field shout. That I thought at times this year he looked like the best striker in the Premier League. And his movement is just ridiculous. It's like watching De Bruyne playing in midfield, watching him play up front. I think you're right, though. 5 years ago, it might have been a little bit different. At this stage, I just don't know whether he's got it. But you've got some legs in Calvert-Lewin, so you could probably get away with it. The only problem is that wouldn't last you the season because Cavani can only play like one.
I'd have Kane on the bench. Don't you worry.
All right. So my other one, and I had a number of choices here for my third. I thought Ings had a decent season, but he dropped off towards the end of the season as well. Was great early on, and then on the left, I had Rafinha as a possibility. Thought he had a good season. Rashford, but I don't think he again finished the season that strong. Sterling, but I had too many Man City players, so I ended on Son. So it was Son on the left for me. Had a great season again. The combination with Kane is unbelievable, and I don't think Son would be limited to just having that kind of partnership with Kane. He's just an intelligent footballer. Again, you watch him play, you watch his movement. I love the way he runs. It's like he's floating. It's like his legs don't appear to be moving that much, and he's going at pace. Really good player. It seems to be pretty honest as well. I know there's been some issues with his discipline at times, but I think that's a slip as opposed to a personality. He comes across really well. Great footballer.
Simon, can I ask then, if Kane goes, you think Son will go?
Yeah, I think he will. I don't think he'll stay. But I think that they've got problems, Tottenham, because the managerial situation has obviously changed. If Kane goes, they could lose big parts of that team. And they were already not looking great anyway.
To be honest, it's got more embarrassing than Everton trying to get Benitez. Tottenham, I think they've approached about 5 or 6 managers and been turned down by them all now. It's not looking good for a club that size, with the brand new stadium, with fans coming back next season. They should be. They should have managers jumping at the bits and want to go manage them to say, I'm going to prove myself with this side, build a side, and they could be huge if they do things right. And I just don't. I mean, I thought it was embarrassing Everton, but there's reasons for that. They've tried to go for Nuno. Nuno's turned them down because Everton won't let Ferguson go, and he wants to bring his backroom staff in. They've gone for Benitez because, to be honest, I don't know why Everton fans are crying about it. He's a proven winner. Everywhere he goes, he wins. Benitez, all right, I know he can be a bit decisive and he can be a bit argumentative, and he's called them a little club in the past, which they are. But He
apologized for that, by the way, live on TV, and explained why that wasn't what he meant.
No, I don't care. I thought it was true.
All the Liverpool fans loved it. He got absolutely held by the Everton fans, but apparently that wasn't what he meant. And he did it live on Sky Sports. Jamie Carragher asked him the question. He did it live.
Did he?
Yeah. I mean, he was looking for a job.
My last one, by the way, I went for Son as well.
Yeah.
It was probably a bit obvious, but yeah, I went for Son. I thought his willingness to push on when Kane drops off automatically, and that connection that they've got between each other is brilliant. And to think about Salah going down one side and Son the other, it'd be frightening.
Yeah. So a couple of other mentions that we didn't talk about. Maguire. Everyone's raving about him for England. I'm missing the point with him entirely, but he's had a shout in some of the Premier League teams of the year. I don't get it. Gini Wijnaldum, as Darren said, had a great season for Liverpool. He's a massive loss. Rice has had a decent season as well. He's not good enough, I think, to make this team, but he's had a decent season. Mason Mount, he's had a good season. And then you talked about Foden, Darren, and then Mahrez as well on the right-hand side.
Yeah. Do you know, I think he's had a great season. Souček for West Ham.
I had him on my list as well. He just nearly made my team, but I just couldn't push it that far.
What about Soufal?
Yeah. And I looked at like defenders. I thought Dunk's had a good season at Brighton again. It's hard playing for Brighton. I look at Tielemans for Leicester in midfield, good player. But the ones we've chosen, I think, are just that notch higher.
White's another one, had a great season.
Oh, yeah, he has, really good.
And it looks like Arsenal have agreed a £50 million deal for him today.
Wow.
50 million quid to go to Arsenal.
Good for him.
And I don't know whether I should keep my boots on and stuff, lads.
No, Daz, don't. You found your level. Okay, why don't you walk through your team?
Okay, so in goal, we've got Martinez. Right back, James. Centre half, Diaz, Godfrey. Left back, Robinson. Defensive midfield player, Kante. Right midfield, Foden. Left midfield, Grealish. Centre mid, De Bruyne. Up front, Calvert-Lewin and Cavani.
Nice. Thomas, what have you got?
I've got Martinez in goal. I've got Cancelo at right back. Diaz and Konza as centre halves. Luke Shaw, left back. I've got Kante, me holding midfielder. On the right, I've got De Bruyne. On the left, I've got Grealish. And then me three up top, I've got Kane, Son and Salah.
Excellent. Okay, so mine is Martinez in goal. Obviously, he got he's paid some people off. Cancelo, right back. Diaz and Cody, centre half. Shaw, left back. And in midfield, I've gone for Kante holding, De Bruyne on the right, Fernandes on the left, and then Salah, Kane, and Son up front. Tell you what, it's a pretty good team, isn't it?
Yeah. I wonder if anyone can beat them.
Yeah, we'll put them up. We'll put them in the up on the podcast. I'll put the images up as we're talking through it, so people can see what we ended up with. I think we were spoiled for choice with some of the players this year as well, because there were some outstanding performances. I also think you could do the worst Premier League team or the worst Premier League players of the year as well, and there's some crackers to fall into that.
Oh yeah, I mean we'd start picking Liverpool. Yeah.
Very careful, Daz.
Yeah. Do you know, just on that, Darren, as well, and rightly so, City have been lauded for a great season, but I'm sure they were only something like 4 points better off than what they finished the year before.
Yeah. When
Liverpool absolutely ran away with it. It was more down to Liverpool dropping off. City haven't got better, as in points-wise, performance-wise. They had a number of losses over the season. Just everyone around them just didn't put up enough of a fight. That was the difference this year, rather than, I think next year we're looking more of a battle. Chelsea look really interesting. They've got a really nice balance, and in the big games they look really, really competitive. United are going to spend heavily again, as they always do. I think their only problem is they've got Solskjaer as the manager, and he bottles it in the big games. Liverpool are going to improve. They're going to get the defenders back, and they've signed Kante for 30 million from Leipzig. So I think next year the pressure is on all them sides. The sides to get closer to City for Liverpool to hit some kind of form again and perform, and then the others to try and close the gap. But if City stay as they are, static around them same points, the gap naturally should close for next year, which make it a lot more exciting. Then you really see when the pressure's on, who's really got it. Because it's like Liverpool had won the league after the first 20 games because they hadn't lost the game. They were that far ahead by Christmas. The pressure was off them. They could just carry on playing. City again this year, after a poor start, leapt in the lead and stayed there for quite a while. And the pressure wasn't on them, so they didn't have to turn up worrying about a performance or dropping points behind a rival team. I can't wait for next year, and hopefully, it's a lot closer. Well, some of these players are amazing.
The reality is, Thomas, that we had a situation with Liverpool where when we came back after the lockdown, we were useless.
Yeah.
Absolutely useless. We still won the league out of Kante.
Yeah.
So it tells you a lot about what goes on in the league as well. But I think you're right. I think if we can have a season without interruption, fans back in the stadiums, which is going to be amazing. I can't wait for that to start again. And teams can put a consistent run in early on. I think it puts the teams like Liverpool and City and Chelsea and Man United and others under pressure. And then it makes for a much more interesting season. I mean, The season before, it was great that Liverpool won the league. But the reality is it was boring. After a while, it was just boring, especially when we started playing crap towards the end. We didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. Same for City. They'd won it so far before the end of the season. The last few games for the top of the table was somewhat pointless. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it starting again. But the biggest thing is going to be fans in the stadiums. I've loved that in the Euros when you see a stadium full of fans. It's been outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, I want to mention a couple of things. So firstly, it was great to see South Liverpool thirds win the league and win the cup last week.
Well done.
Which was fantastic. Young team.
Congratulations. Yeah.
One of our mates' brothers, Alex Yates, plays centre half for the thirds. Brilliant footballer. Actually looks outstanding. He reminds me a lot of Ben Williams. Really good on the ball. Got a great commands the defence. Seems to have come on an awful lot. I seen him maybe about a year ago. And the difference in him now is outstanding. He can definitely step up. Speaking of stepping up, the first team won their league and also got promoted. So they're back into non-league, which is great to see. So they'll be playing non-league football this year. They're talking about what they're doing at the stadium. I don't think me and you are going to get called up, Daz, but you never know.
I'm going to practice next to them.
Yeah.
Just to see if he notices anything.
Yeah. Also tonight, a mate of ours, Mick Stanton, is fighting in Cage Warriors, the Height and Hammer.
Well, Mick.
And hopefully he gets the win. He's lost a couple now, but we've seen him train. He's outstanding. He looks as sharp as ever, looks fit, ready to go. Seen some pictures of him today. Looked outstanding, Tom.
I'm just dead nervous. He's on after we finish this podcast. I can't wait to watch him.
I've given him a few tips from the old Swan Octopus. So if if he wants to give me a call, we'll sort it out.
That's a classic.
Let's get this over with now. Oh my
All right. So one more thing before we go. We talked about it last week. Was the the London Williams tournament, which we've got on the 17th of July, Admiral Street in Liverpool. 4 teams from around the city playing in a tournament to raise funds for both the Ben Williams charity, which is for offering heart screening days for athletes around the city, amateur athletes around the city. Ben Williams passed away at 41 in 2018 from a rare heart condition, and we want to make sure no one else has the same problems. Even more relevant now with what's happened to Ericsson. So we're raising money for that. And also for a mate of ours, Mick London, who we've talked about on this podcast. In 2018, was diagnosed with MND, motor neuron disease, has been battling it ever since, doing amazing against it. But we want to support his family to make sure he does the things that he wants to do, can have a good time with his kids. We'd like to do that and like to help him out. But he's such a good lad and his family are amazing, from a real football family around the city. And we've got Waterloo Dock, who are an ex-team of his. We've got Old Zavs, who we played for years. Egbert Peoples, all APH, who are another team that we played against for many years. And also a Ben Williams Select 11 who are playing in the tournament. Should be a great day. Semis and final on the day. We'll have some entertainment there. We'll have some good old players there. Unfortunately, Darren can't be with us because apparently he's got better things to do.
Dual sport athlete.
Yeah, but it'll be good fun. 17th of July on Admiral Street in Liverpool. We'll give out more details between now and then, but certainly something that you want to get down to if you love football. We'll also put the GoFundMe up so people can contribute, and we've already had some of our watchers and listeners contribute already, which is great to see. So thank you, and we'll keep that going. So hope you have a good week. Hope you enjoy the rest of the Euros. Anything to add before we go, Daz?
No, just I'm looking forward to the knockout stages now in the Euros. That's when it really gets interesting.
Love it. Thomas?
I can't wait for LFC TV to show our pre-season games because this is crap.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Go and download
Take care.
the podcast.
Bye-bye.
Let's watch the videos. Do whatever you need to do. Go and visit the website at www.3meninthefootball.com. Tell us what you think. Give us some comments and we'll talk about them on the podcast. All right, everyone. See you all soon.
See you, boys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ta-da.